It's time to upload brand new podcast episodes, stories, insights that you've never seen. So make a brew and grab a biscuit, cause you really don't wanna miss it. The Dates and Tunnel Vision Podcast. Welcome, thank you very much for joining me on episode 2 of the Dates and Podcast. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. Basically, we just want to talk today about women in science, because that is in February, and we want to celebrate women in science because they are grand. And I think you were a good person to talk to because you came from the industry originally before you came to Datesand, didn't you?
I did,
yeah.
yes.
So you went to university.
I did.
Yeah, that's how you got into it though, isn't it?
Not strictly.
Okay.
So, yes, I did go to university and I did do science at university, but I did geology and chemistry.
Oh,
Joint
okay.
honours, which is not directly related to this, let's be honest.
bit.
But my history in this industry goes back way further than university. So I don't remember a time in my life when I was not involved in this industry in some way. Both my parents were molecular geneticists working on mouse models and chicken models before that, actually. So way back to when I was a very small baby, my mum was... she was an undergrad, a geneticist, when I appeared, and then she managed somehow to do her PhD with me, who's probably not the easiest small baby in the world. So yeah, I've always been around this industry. Some of my earliest memories of being with animals in science is being in the mouse units, or the mouse houses as they used to call them back then, at the university that they were at Leicester University, and being offered a cage of mice to look at and to entertain me as a 4 or 5 year old, no less actually at that age, 2-3 year old, while mum and dad did their stuff.
Most people would have like dolls.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, totally not acceptable these days on a whole number of levels. But you know, the late 70s, early 80s were a different kettle of fish.
Right.
And then at the Poultry Research Centre in Edinburgh, now the Roslin Institute, both my parents again were postdocs there, and again I was let loose in the chicken sheds as a young child. So
is that why you've got chickens now?
No.
No.
I think if anything that put me off chickens. I got in so much trouble for opening the cages one day, and yeah, really a lot of trouble on that. But yeah, so I've been around this industry since as long as I can remember.
So what led you to do that in university rather than following the footsteps, if you will?
I mean, I'm gonna say it was general pig-headed teenager behaviour of disagreeing with anything that my parents thought would be a good thing to do. I absolutely, in hindsight, should have done biochemistry. I got accepted for medical biochemistry at Manchester University, but when I went for my interview there and at Leicester University, they both referenced at least one of my parents, and I got my back up and went, I'm not doing that.
You're not
then,
going.
am I?
Yeah.
Not doing that.
So it's just teenage angst.
Oh, teenage dreadfulness, basically. Yeah.
So after you did that, then what made you come back? Because eventually, you know.
I did. So I graduated. I had zero interest in any geochemistry career options, which were basically the rigs or Antarctica. It felt like at the time, neither of which were for me. So I ended up in a company called SRG, Science Recruitment Group, where I initially had signed up for them to try and get me a job. They were a recruitment agency, and subsequently ended up working for them as a scientific recruiter.
Oh, okay.
So I did that for a few years, and then again through family links, my dad was good friends with the late Jerry Banton, who was the owner of Banton and Kingman, who were then B&K, and who were then subsequently bought by Marshalls, so an animal breeder. And they were really struggling in the late 90s, early 2000s to recruit for their PATS technicians, which was the temporary animal staff, because of the anti-vivisection movement, which was very strong and pretty intense at that time. So they were really struggling to recruit. So my dad had said to Jerry, my daughter's in scientific recruitment. Jerry came to me and said, would you consider recruiting for us? And I said, I can certainly take it to my management team. My management team categorically said, no, we're not dealing with in vivo. We were supplying technicians into pharma, into all the places that were using animals, but not openly using animals. So I had to go back to Jerry and say, no, sorry, I can't do that. And he then reapproached me and said, would I consider going and working for B&K recruiting? And I said, yeah, why not? It's a new challenge, let's do it. So I went and I headed up the PATS department doing recruitment into this industry.
Wow. And then how did you get into data sand? That's recruiting, and then now you're... Yeah,
so I, at B&K, started in the recruitment, then Walter left to go to then Harlan, now Invigo, now Innovative,
right.
And they asked me to step into his sales role, so I ended up selling for B&K, as well as doing the PATS role. I met Jonathan and knew about data sand through conferences, through IoT Congress and things like that, and basically pestered Jonathan for quite a long time to give me a job. There was nothing, it wasn't appropriate at that time for me to join the business. I then went to Aramite, who were a caging company, for a brief period of time after I left B&K, and then got my job here eventually through quite a lot of pestering.
Yeah. I mean, if it works, it works.
Yeah, a lot of head pecking.
Yeah, we have
but
to.
That was a long time ago, so it was the right thing.
Yeah. Brilliant. So do you think that then that kind of angle of being a woman in science, do you think I know you said like it's always been with you, but like have you seen any difference like being in the industry yourself against men? Or has it been better to be a woman? Has there been any challenges you've faced? You know, things like that? Has it been difficult?
I think as a woman in science, we are underrepresented in science, females in general, in all science, technology, education. So all STEM subjects, females are really underrepresented.
Right.
I am unashamedly going to take the feminist view on this. I do not hate men. I'm not that type of feminist, but I strongly believe that women should be better represented. At the moment, I think it's like 26% of the science workforce is women, and most of that is in the caring professions, so like nursing and stuff. And so far as, you know, lauded scientists, Nobel Prizes and stuff, of the medicine, Nobel Prize for Medicine since its inception, I wrote this down because I thought it was important, only 13 out of 214 Nobel Prize winners for medicine have been women, so that's 6%.
Wow.
Across medicine, chemistry and physics, since 1901 when it was started, there have been 646 prizes and only 26 of them have been women, 4%. So we're really underrepresented, super underrepresented.
I think that it's important though to have multiple views though, isn't it? So it's like, you know, you don't just have the men talking about it, you have women, you can have children involved and things like that.
Yes.
Everyone's voice and opinions matter, so the fact that it's clearly so little, they, you know, not valuing the voice of women
it's certainly getting better. It's certainly getting better, even in my kind of time as an employed person within science. I remember in one of my first interviews I was openly asked, was I intending to have children? Like that would never happen now, but even, I mean, when was that? 25 years ago. That was still a question.
That's as old as me, that. I'm 24.
All right. Back in the day, even back then, that was an acceptable question to ask, and I think that has meant that women in science have found it more difficult to progress. I think there are good opportunities out there for us, but still, I think if you ask school-age children, what does a scientist look like, you're going to get the stereotypical man in a white coat with glasses, you know, that kind of descriptor. And in fact, I did ask a couple of my daughter's friends to say, what does a scientist look like? And they all described that man in a white coat in a lab, which is part of science, but, you know, there's no requirement to wear a white coat or have Einstein hair, or indeed
I've
be a
been
man.
been to one of the facilities, and I wore all the get up and the has suits and all the shoe guards. I didn't see anyone in a white coat though.
Sad times.
So it didn't really live up to my expectation. But I know when I was in high school, I really enjoyed science, minus physics because I was just terrible at maths. But my biology and chemistry, absolutely loved it. And when I was choosing to go into college, I had to either decide a creative route or my science route. Right. And I remember I was toying with it, and I was like, I don't really know what to pick because I really like my science, but I really like being creative. Yeah. And in my head, I didn't see the two as being compatible at all, so it was one or the other. Yeah. And ultimately, I went with creative, so now I'm in social media and content creating and stuff like that.
But you're also in science.
But I'm still in science, and I didn't think that was going to happen. I remember when I was in college and I had to do all my sign up and everything. You had to be like registered. We were in like a massive hall. He got called to one person and called to another, and the person who was signing it off was a woman, and she was the biology teacher. And she said, "I've seen your GCSEs, and I'm very upset that you're not choosing biology." And I was like, "I'm so sorry, love." And I was just like, I just think, like, I just sort of felt like I wouldn't be able to do college level science because my GCSE level wasn't going to be good enough. But I knew that I was going to be good at photography and media and stuff. Yeah. So I went more of a safe route. But I do sometimes look at it now. I'm in the industry still, and I'm going, kind of regret not picking the sciences because I did really enjoy it. But
I sometimes think we should have gone the other route. Yeah. It was never a question that I would do anything other than science. Mm-hmm. I was good at it. My parents did it. It was like that was the route. You would go to school. You would go to university and do science. Then you would work in science. That was the route that in my head, and because of what I was seeing around me, I didn't know much about anything else. So I did it, which was great. But school science was very. Oh, I don't think I had a single female science teacher at school.
Did you not?
No. I mean,
see, I did.
Did you?
We had 2, I believe. I mean, most of them were male. They were men, but we did have 1 or 2. I think 1 came and then 1 left, and then we had another one that come and replaced her. It was a woman. And then when I was at college, I think at least the biology teacher I knew of was a woman, and she was the science teacher. So we are seeing a little bit more improvement.
I think we are seeing. We're definitely seeing movement in the right direction. Although I still think, in this industry and probably in a lot of scientific industries, the majority of management level and director level posts are still male, and a lot more of the lower level, more kind of, again, caring roles like the technician, the entry level positions are more often women. I think that some of that is because as people grow within their careers, women are biologically the ones that have to go off and have the children, and maternity leave is usually more often not taken by the woman. So there are always going to be more career breaks that women take, and that is a barrier to progression. I think we're seeing more now split parental leave when people have kids, which is great that the dads are becoming more involved, but that's always going to be a barrier for women in any industry. But I think specifically science moves so fast that if you step away, stepping back in is sometimes quite difficult.
Which is not very good for those types of people, because then when you come back into it and you end up really stressed and your mental health is struggling already because you've just had a baby and stuff, and that can really take a toll on people.
And even like the time restrictions on once you become a parent, the bulk of that is usually, not always, I'm not going to generalise, but more often than not is taken on by the mother, the arranging the pickups, the drop-offs, who does the school call if the child is sick, all those things. So it is more difficult, and in a sales role within the scientific industry, the ability to travel is also restricted by children. I'm not saying that's not restricted for men as well, but it is sometimes more difficult for women to do that.
So what would, if you were talking to, say, one of your daughter's friends, or your daughter as well, what would you kind of advise, I guess? Would you want her to go into a science as well and sort of follow, like, as we're going down generations? Are you not completely bothered at all?
I'm not bothered about what she does. I want her to do what makes her happy.
Has she got an interest in science since?
She's got an interest in. Yes, she does. She does have an interest in science. She's very inquisitive about the world and that side of things. Whether ultimately that's where she goes down the route of, that's a different matter. I think there's so much more open to people in general and kids these days. It's not you either do arts and humanities or you do science. There's so much more crossover. Certainly even than when I was at school, which obviously is in the dark ages.
As old as me, at least. Just to tell you again. Okay, brilliant.
I'd graduated by the time you were born.
Well, I was turn of the millennium. It was 2000, and everyone was like, "Oh, I remember that when you were born."
Yeah.
So if she did see an interest in science and she was saying, "Mum, I think I'm really going to pursue this," and she's a young child, what kind of advice would you give to her about starting from your own experience when you started?
Just to totally encourage it, I think, just to be inquisitive. And I think it's in some ways easier to be inquisitive now with the internet. Oh God, again, that's aging me so bad. Like I remember at school writing, there was some work released in my chemistry class. Mr. Booth, my chemistry teacher, was brilliant, and there was some work on the C60 molecule, the buckyball. There was a paper released, and I don't even know why, but it just totally caught my attention. And like now, I would go on Wikipedia, right? You would go on Wikipedia, you would go online, you'd have a look, right? End of. I remember writing a physical letter to a scientist at Sheffield University to ask him some 12, 13-year-old based questions. And he, fair dues to him, he wrote back. And I think just that that kind of level of interest and the being inquisitive, that's what I would tell people, to never stop being inquisitive, never stop asking the questions.
I love that. Are you ready for your quiz questions?
Looking forward to it.
Well, I'm expecting you to get them, to be honest, because they're
pressure.
Dates and products. So I'm expecting you to do pretty well on this.
Okay, deep breath.
Okay, you ready? Okay, question. Well, it's not actually a question, really. It's more of a who am I? It's kind of a question.
Okay.
So I'm going to have a bit of a sentence about one of our products.
Okay.
And then you need to guess what the product is. There's only 3. So it's not too much pressure.
Okay.
Okay, but I am expecting you to get it. Okay.
Here's the tester.
The first one. I provide controlled warmth and airflow for smaller rodents, ideal for recovery and precision care. Who am I?
You're the thermocage.
I am the thermocage. Brilliant. I thought you would get that one.
Yeah. Okay, that was an easy start.
I thought I'd ease you in.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, you ready for the next one? I encourage animals to forage, carry and shred, allowing them to create a warm, soft nest, perfect for both adults and pups. Who am I?
Well, that could be a few different products.
But this is specifically...
Is that enriching nest with the foraging?
No, it's not, I'm afraid. It's a cocoon.
Oh yeah, okay. I should have known that.
You should have known that, but you've got one more chance.
Okay,
so I make handling and dosing small animals safe and stress-free, protecting both handler and animal. Who
That's
am I?
the scruff guards.
Perfect, there we go. I knew you'd get that one as well. But that is 2 for 3.
That's not so bad.
I think that was better than Jonathan, I think.
Okay, good.
So at least you got better than that.
And I should have got a cocoon. It totally went out of my mind.
I'd throw you off a little bit with
All
that one in the middle,
okay.
so I'm sorry about that. But
No problem.
yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And, well, I hope I'll see you again soon for another one.